I'm going to tell you, and so right this minute, about a hunting trip that me and my first cousin started to go on a couple of years ago. My cousin Mike Hobson lives over in the Green Mountain community of Yancey County on Toe River. And the Toe River Gorge, where it becomes an Okeechobee, is a real wild, scenic place and a good place to go hunting at the right time of year. And Mike had got hold of a hog rifle that he wanted to take the week that the season was in that you could hunt with. I mean, that's, of course, a muzzle-loading rifle that fires either on the flintlock, on a flint, or the cap, the percussion type that has a cap. Well, he got hold of one, and we were going to take it and go deer hunting one weekend. And the day that we'd planned to go, I'd got up early. I live with my grandparents near Lenore, and so it's about an hour and a half ride over to Green Mountain. And I was on my way up there, and during that time, my cousin Mike had been called into work a half a day. So when I got to his house, his wife, Peggy, come out, and she said, "Here's the gun," said Mike said to give it to you. And said, "Just tell me sort of which way you're going." He said he'd catch up with you, ate her dinner. Well, so I told her what my plans were, and so she gave me the gun. And when she gave it to me, but she failed to tell me something that I wish I'd have known. Mike wasn't real sure how familiar I was with the use of that gun, so he had gone ahead and loaded it that morning. And Mike's an awful thrifty type person. He never overdoes nothing. He usually talks softly and goes about life softly and you know, stuff like that. And maybe he doesn't make so awful many mistakes. On the other hand, I might do something completely wrong, but I won't ever have to do it. It's root, hog, or die. So, as it turned out, she didn't tell me that he had loaded the gun, and he'd put a neat little charge in there, and I was all exuberant wanting to go deer hunting. So I got as far down the river as I could get on a paved road, went as far as I could get on the dirt road, and come to the end of it, and knowed I had to get out. So I got out, and I thought, well, I better load up right here. So I did, whereas Mike's sort of thrifty, I poured the powder to it and packed that bullet down in there. I'm telling you now, she's tighter than Nick's hat band. But I didn't know it. There I was, had 2 shoots in my rifle. And I had me on some boots in case I needed to cross over the river, because you get down them gorges and you know, the scenery will change a lot. You can take a little knife cut across a little spur of a ridge and come out way down the river, maybe a mile or 2 if you don't want to walk all the way around and meander through there. And lots of times it's like a big old wind tunnel and you get in the gorge. You can't hardly hear yourself think for the wind whizzing through. And of course, as it is in a lot of places in Appalachia, the terrain is different from place to place. And I was over on the Yancey County side of the river, and I was having awful luck finding deer sign. And I got down in there, and it got awful bluffy, and a big old rock cliff is up here, and I thought, well, it looks like there'd be a little bit of ground to get on over on the first side of the river, over on the Mitchell County side. And so, anyway, where I was at, it was kind of a broad place in the river, and on the first side, the woods come right down to the beach right near it. It was a big old cove over there, and I thought, well, I'll go over there and look around a while, see what I come up on. Had my boots on there ready, and I was just fixing to step down in the water. And over on the first side of the river, out of the woods, stepped the biggest buck deer that I ever seen in my life. I mean, it had a rack of horns on its head. I counted 16 pints from where I was at, and the shade of some of the trees is against him, and I couldn't count them all, but I was just about a slobber, and I was excited there for a minute. I just couldn't hardly wait, and I pulled my gun up. I draw my bead on him. I'm left-handed, and so I had it on his shoulder, and I had my bead just about drawed on him when there's a sycamore. There's a lot of sycamores grows along waterways, and there's a big old sycamore right down below me, growing up on the bank, and a broad limb out on the upper end of it. And up there was 6 or 8 of them there birds that come from over on the other side of China, over in well, maybe that's where they come from, China. I think they do. Anyway, they're foreign to us. But they were them ring-necked pheasants. That's what it was, ring-necked pheasants sitting on there. Now, I'd seen one time at home. It flew up in the tree when I was just a kid, but that was something that I had never seen many of. And I seen them up there, and it just addled me a little bit. I thought, gee whiz, it'd be nice to have them birds and that deer over there too. I wasn't able to tarry long enough to think about it much. As a rock rolled over my boot, and I turned around and looked to see where it's coming from. And back here in the bluff, they was two of the purtiest little old black bear cubs you ever seen in your life playing. And they're just that size. They're sort of like kittens or puppy dogs, when they're certain size that, they're just frisky and play and everything. He'd just pull at your heartstrings to see them. But as soon as I did, my hair stood straight up, and you see what was left. You ain't going to find nothing like that out in the wild woods, but there ain't somebody or something there to protect it, and usually that's going to be the old mammy. And like I said, it was windy down through there, but about that time I heard the awfulest roar, and then I looked back behind me, and coming out in the woods yonder, out of a holler, was old Mother Bear. And it took me a minute or two to tell you up to this point, but all this happened like maybe in 60 seconds from the time I saw that deer till this happened, and she probably knew I was coming prior to me getting there. And she's coming out, and what they'll do, they'll come at you on their all fours, and they'll rear up on their hind legs, and they'll wobble over and take care of business. And she was about 3 or 4 wobbles by the time I looked from swarping my head about halfway across the river. Well, folks, I'll tell you now, I've always said, throughout my life, it's been a practice of mine that when I get frightened enough that I can run fast. And I can usually just burn the wind up. Well, she was right there, and I didn't have time to turn around hardly to get aim, and I didn't see no way to escape. And I wanted to run, but it seemed like my feet just wouldn't take me where the rest of me wanted to go. And so I just didn't seem to have no choice, but the thought come to my head, into my mind, to fire the gun. I mean, I couldn't take aim, but just shoot the gun. So I didn't know about them 2 shoots in the gun. I slung that gun barrel over my shoulder about the time she was up close to her nose, was about that far from it. And all I know to do was pull the trigger. I pulled it. Bam! Had to go somewhere. All that shot and bullet and everything had to move. And so it didn't do nothing but blow the barrel up. The barrel blowed up in that bear's face and killed her where she is at. She took all of it, and the hammer of that gun shot up in the air, split the tree that them pheasants was sitting on, snapped shut on their spurs, couldn't fly. The stock of that gun, it was blowed into 100 pieces. It flew over the river and splintered that deer to death. And the explosion threw me down there in the river. Of course, there's a big old hole there. You'd think it'd been a channel and I could have got in, but no, it's a big old hole, and I crawled out, gagging and coughing, about to puke. I come up on a rock and let the water out of my boots, and 50 trout fell out of each boot. So when my cousin called up with me later on, he was mildly surprised, and I did, I guess, a fair little bit of hunting that day, but I might could have done better.